Hello, listeners, and welcome to Season 2 with me. Last season, I took you through an interview series of tech founders and CEOs' tech stacks and how much they spent on tech stacks and what their top 5 tech stacks were in 2024. Now, for Season 2, we're jumping into Show Me Your Hustle, where I am interviewing tech CEOs, founders, and exiters in what their hustle is, what their secrets are, and how they got started. So join me in this journey and let's shuffle up and jump on in.
Hi everyone who's watching. I'm Farah, and I spent most of my career on the software engineering side, really on the services side of software engineering. And my colleagues and I, after all of us spending well over, like me, over a decade, my colleagues, we have one who's over 20 years, we realized that in software engineering, there's some major issues when it comes to calling on or getting access to information that's relevant to a software engineer's job. And not just software engineers, it could be, somebody on the sales or account management side. It could be somebody who is supporting that software engineer, just anyone who's in that technical project. So we noticed there were some issues and decided to create Maru. And essentially what Maru does is it takes all of the proprietary information that's in like an information silo when you think about software and the management or building of software. And takes all that information, ingests it, and then organizes it in a manner that becomes readily available to that user. So you can think of Maru as almost like a lead engineer or somebody that you would go to, technology that you would go ask a question to so that you can just do your job more efficiently. There's actually a stat that I want to share with you guys. 80% of software engineers spend 80% of their time just looking for answers. So they're not coding, they're not architecting, they're just looking for answers. And they don't want to be doing that, actually. They want to be working faster. But because their jobs are so intense and there's so much information needed and they have to be experts, they just don't have the access as quickly as they could. And that's really what the role that Maru plays, is giving them access to information much faster.
That's awesome. I'm excited to dive in and learn more. And wow, what a stat. Holy cow.
I know.
Like, that just blew my mind. So I can't wait to dive in. Before we dive into what you're working on right now, what is your personal stack or habits that drive your hustle? Is it their books, podcasts? Like, what are you learning?
Yeah. So it was books, it was podcasts, it was, also the midnight death scroll where you're just looking for information.
Right.
So in 2025, I've made a very intentional shift. One thing that I didn't do last year that I should have done more of is taking care of my physical body. And I feel like that's got to be part of our side hustle, right? Is like focusing on your health. Yeah. And so one thing I've been doing is, while I exercise, which is typically, a stationary bike, a Peloton, right? While I'm exercising, instead of watching that Peloton video, I could just use any stationary bike now. Now I'm watching documentaries about other CEOs, about other founders, and it's teaching me a lot, because being a founder is tough. You get challenged every day, and as a founder, you don't have giant backing. That's the difference between us and the big, huge organizations, right? The organizations have gotten there somehow. They were like us at one point, but they just don't have that big backing. So that's a lot of challenge to deal with. So what my most recent thing that I'm watching is, and you guys should check it out, I think it's great, Bill's Brain. It's about Bill Gates and his life. And, it's a series. And I, get on the bike for 30 minutes a day. I'm like really, I would say, focused on this now. Every morning I try to get on the bike for 30 minutes and I watch 30 minutes of an episode. I don't listen to music. I don't do anything else. I just focus on that. And I hear about the challenges that he faced and how he moved past them, which is inspiring for me.
I'm going to totally take that one out of your playbook. Mine is the treadmill power walking versus biking. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So
next. Sorry, the internet was not stable for a second.
Oh, okay. Um, what about your tech stack? What products are you using every day that you absolutely cannot live without?
Um, I love Canva, right? We're a small team and Canva's a great,
Right.
really, really great product. I mean, we're the content that we can come up with because of Canva is wonderful. You
Mm-hmm.
know, from a email marketing, from a marketing perspective, we're using HubSpot. We really love HubSpot a lot. It's been really good for us, you know, as a startup, but I know it's something that we can also move into as we get larger. So I don't
Right.
feel like we will have to make much of a change, but that's really helping in terms of communicating with our current investors, communicating with our customers, with prospects, et cetera. It's really helping us see also because of the analytics that you get from HubSpot,
Right.
more of a 360 view of who's interacting with our brand. The most important thing that I'm using is Slack. And the
Yes.
reason why is because my team is very spread out and it's just
Right.
an easy way for us to communicate. I mean, I'm super dependent on them, right? Like if I didn't have such a
Yeah.
great team, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
So communicating with them frequently is important.
I think every CEO in the last year of interviews I've had have been talking about Slack and Canva. I think they are
Oh,
absolutely cannot live without. And
yeah.
I'm loving hearing that because Canva is giving the ability to people that are not graphic designers by trade or not, your slide decks no longer look like a Google slide boring. So I hear you. I think it's a beautiful tool and I'm loving it as well.
Hmm.
Um, with that, let's jump into your story.
Yeah.
So, how did you get here?
Yeah. So I started my career well over a decade ago. I started it working for Adobe. I mean, I was doing other things before going into tech, but I started my tech career working for Adobe. They gave me a job in Sydney, Australia, so I moved from the US and went to Sydney. Soon after working for them, I decided to go onto the services side, and I was working for a company that wanted to build an e-commerce agency or an e-commerce systems integrator and
Right.
helped them do that, which was great. But then I continued my career down that path. So, you know, I worked, for example, for, you know, some smaller SIs, some larger ones. Eventually, I was part of a transaction that sold an SI to Infosys, which is a very large consultancy. You know, in that time, I got to really do great things with brands. Most of my career has been on the sales, marketing, and partnership side, so on the growth
Uh
side
huh.
of business,
Okay.
and a little bit on the delivery side, not a ton. But I was always running into this challenge where, like, I would sell something, or my team would sell something, or a colleague would sell something, and we would get it over to delivery, and then delivery would get stuck. Right. There was always this period of
Right.
like, oh no. And then what happens is the customer comes back to you and says, hey, like, we're not moving at the pace we need to move, or this is becoming very expensive, or whatever it is, right? And it's
Right.
something that happens with all service providers. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
stat is
Yeah.
actually that about 70% of technology partners, or sorry, projects end in total or partial failure. Like when you think about that,
Yeah.
expenditure related to that, it's huge, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
um, my team and I, we came together 2 years ago, and we were talking about some of the challenges that we were seeing in the industry and that we had
Mm-hmm.
been seeing for over a decade at that point. And
Right.
we were like, wouldn't it be great if there was a solution that would solve
Yeah.
that would
Right. You're
meet the
like,
needs of everybody, you know? And so we started
mm-hmm.
architecting and building, and this is before OpenAI, just right before OpenAI hit the market. We thought we
Mm-hmm.
would have to build something, you know, our own large language model. That's what we thought we would have to
Right.
do. And then all of a sudden, all this innovation starts hitting the market. And so we have all these things available to us. And now what
Mm-hmm.
Maru is a combination of just under 100 different microservices, plus a multitude of LLMs that all do different things. We could pull
Mm-hmm.
it out if we need to. We can plug it back in depending on what happens in the market and where innovation
Okay.
heads with the LLM, you know, AI sector in
Yeah.
particular.
Right.
And now we've got Maru. We've got customers on. It's been a long 2 years. It's like the longest 2 years
Yeah.
of my life because you're building products.
Right.
It's funny when we first went into this, we said this is going to take us 2 months. Now, 2 years later, now we're signing on customers. We're managing some that have been with us for a long time. Like I said before we jumped on this podcast, we've invested in our first conference where we're going to be sponsoring. So we'll be at Adobe Summit. We're pretty excited about that. At booth 790A, if anybody's interested in
I
stopping by.
love that. Literally best trade show ever. So I need to see pictures on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's where we are today. That's our journey.
Awesome. That's so exciting. And I love that you touched a little bit on scalability and changes in the market, especially in AI. I think we all are feeling that and how it's adapting, and building a business model that is really adaptable to that is so important right now. With that, so you talked about the longest 2 years. Where's been your biggest pivot? You are running towards your North Star and you had that oh crap moment.
Biggest pivot was probably about a year ago. We had done some early marketing, and we believed that the product would be quicker, like that building the product would be faster. But then we signed on a beta customer, and what we thought was saleable was different than what they were willing to pay for initially. And so I would say that was the biggest pivot. We went from, we know what this innovation roadmap is, it's very clear to us, and we were the designers and the owners of that innovation roadmap, to pivoting in our entire business and our commitment to our customers. Actually, now our commitment to our customers is they drive our innovation roadmap. So our customers tell us, this is what I need in my business. And then we put it on our roadmap. It's almost like we become their internal agency. You know what I mean? It's almost like that. Like, we're building this AI product for them, for their use. And when you think about it, the best products actually, that's how they're customer centric.
Service first. Yep.
Yeah. And that's really how we want to be. And that was, I would say, the biggest pivot, because most of our team, they're engineers. They want to be the owners of whatever the product is and the roadmap.
Right.
But it's really important as an organization. If you have customers, you have to hear your customers. You have to do what they need. They're paying you, after all. They're the reason why you're in business, So
Right. I'm loving this blend away from true SaaS into this SaaS service industry, where the new era of startups really are that customer centric driven product, where before it was like, well, here's a subscription model, here's your price, join or not. Especially VC money was much easier to come by at that time. So now getting creative and hearing CEOs and founders really listening to their customers and driving their product around the customer's needs is just really cool. So
yeah, I had a conversation last night with a CEO in my industry who's got a very large agency. I mean, I met him many moons ago when I think they had like 150 engineers. Now they have 900 engineers. I mean, he's really grown that company to be really large. And he said, look, I'm not technical. I just have a company of engineers.
Yeah.
He was like, but I'll tell you what I need. And he just was like mapping out exactly the type of analytics he needs and where he has trouble making really smart decisions and pivoting in his own business. And he was like, it'd be really great if Maru could do these things. And so immediately, like, as he's telling me this, I'm in my Slack channel messaging my team, taking notes.
Right.
This is something that we're definitely going to invest our time and money in, is making sure that we give, organizations like his that have large engineering, large staff. It's hard to really know when do you hire your next 50 or 100 engineers?
Right.
When is it? Is it when you close that big account, or is it when you realize that your current staffing model is kind of like at its wall? It's not going to go any further.
Right.
So yeah, it's very, very important, I think, for us at Maru in particular, to be very customer centric.
Love that. I wanted to dive a little bit into staffing actually, so perfect pivot into the next question. How are you thinking about staffing in the world of AI and um, in the early startup stages?
Yeah, I mean, it's always on my mind. I'm
I
always,
love this.
I always,
Every CEO has a different, they're like, I don't know, I'm flying by the seat of my pants, so I
yeah,
love this question.
it's a good question because as a startup CEO, no matter what, you're either faced with limited resources or too many resources because you just
Hmm.
raised, right? And
Yeah,
you don't want to make a mistake
right.
any way you go. And I mean, I'm just looking for people who are the right cultural fit, right? That's
Yeah.
really what I'm looking for. People who can get through the challenges, the walls that we're going to face as we're growing this
Hmm.
company. That's really big. I want doers, people who can own. That's really big for me. It doesn't matter which facet or what part of the company they're in. It's, we're a 12-person team right now. We're pretty small. So
Right.
any extra person we add, they really need to bring a lot of value. That's my, and we go through our own, like our own process of interviewing where they talk to me, they talk to our CTO, they talk to our founder, our COO,
Hmm.
they're talking to a multitude of people. We just need
Right.
to all vote on, we think this person is the right cultural fit. That's really important to
Right.
us. And that they're going to be able to bring the right experience. And
Hmm.
it's interesting, sometimes experience isn't what you think it is, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes you look at a person, you say, oh, wow, they worked at this big company and they did this big thing, but maybe that's not right, the right fit for you and your company at that
Yeah.
period of time.
Love
Maybe
it.
you need somebody who's, really excited about the technology, very excited about the team, and they bring
Yeah.
the right skills, and so they are the right person for the job. So
Right.
I think, for us, that's it really is about cultural fit. So that's in terms of the types of person or people that we
Hmm.
want to hire. Take it
Right.
a step further on where we're focusing in terms of our next hires. Our goal right now is to grow from an engineering standpoint. We have some really fantastic engineers. We have some people from, the Google Innovation Lab. We've got, our
Hmm.
CTO is really well known in the industry because he is the guy who builds things that nobody wants to build, right? He's like,
Yes.
he is that guy. He figures it out.
Right. Your
They
most important part of a startup is that person.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And then we've got our founder, Joel Hart, who he's so innovative. Like he's always coming up with
Hmm.
these fantastic ideas, and the way that he is able to communicate those to customers is really powerful. Um,
Right.
so from a technology standpoint, I think we're I mean, all of those people would say we want more, but our focus in 2025 is sales, growth in sales. And so it's
Hmm.
really in the growth and sales arena that we'll be making
Right.
our next hires.
Awesome. And you had touched on that's where your passion lies and your experience. So I'm excited to see what happens and post Adobe Splash as well. Um, all right. Being a CEO is extremely stressful. I could only imagine. And the constant worry of, is this a one-way door? Is this a two-way door? Like, what decision do I make? With that, what do you think your competitive advantage is?
Mm. So I know what it is. Um, we are, so our competitive advantage is actually related to the the way that we architect the product, first of all.
Okay.
um, and the information that the product has in it before a company
Hmm.
even decides to turn the on button, right?
Okay.
So Maru is pre-built with platform expertise that is relevant to the person using Maru. So for example, let's talk, we're going to Adobe Summit, so we'll, talk
Right.
about this in the context of Adobe. Maru is pre-loaded with Adobe Commerce, AEM, AEP,
Mm.
Target, like all these, products that Adobe has. And it
Right.
also is preloaded. I mean, not only with the developer notes and things that are available from the platform, but also nuances that are related to that platform. So nuances about architecture, etc. Now, once that information is paired with what our competitors have access to, which is
Right.
historical information on that specific project, you pair that together. That's how you truly get that lead engineer, most senior person on the technical team experience. That's how you
Okay.
get it, right? So it's that
Right.
piece that is taking what we do a step further. We maintain it. We make sure it's updated. Our customers don't have to worry about it anymore. This is like one of the toughest thing is like, did you take the test for that certification, or
Right.
there's a new feature or
Right.
functionality coming out? What are the ins and outs of it? So we take that off of their plate so that they can really focus on the thing that they went to school to do and that they're passionate about, which is architecture
Right.
and engineering.
I love it. I'm so excited to dig more into this and see your product grow. With that, last question for you.
Yeah.
What do you believe is one misunderstanding or misconception you had going into being a startup founder?
So as a startup founder, for me, my I mean, it's been a big growth. It's been massive growth for me, right? As
Yeah.
a startup founder, when you hit challenges or roadblocks, you are the one who has to message and talk about it. You are the one that has to keep the team driven and inspired. You have to lead, right? It's
Yeah.
not just about building a product. It's not just about selling a bunch. It's not just about whatever you did before that made you special, right? You really
Right.
have to lead. And that is the misconception. I think a lot of founders miss this actually, right? Where they
Yeah.
will have a wonderful idea, a CEO, like founder CEOs in particular, where they will have a really good idea and they're so focused on that idea that they forget about the people. And sometimes in the morning when I wake up and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" Because it happens as a founder. This happens
Yeah.
to you, right? Sometimes
Right.
when I wake up in the morning and I feel like that and I talk to one of my teammates and I realize like this is why I'm doing this. I'm not only
Right.
doing it to provide a really good solution and to be mission focused in our company, but
Yeah.
also because this person believes in me. So I believe in them and I have to keep
Right.
them motivated and passionate and focused on the outcome. And that is the shift. That's the thing that I didn't think about to begin with
Yeah.
when I was originally voted in by everyone.
Out of all the CEOs I have interviewed, this is the first answer I received like this. So I love your authenticity on this and just rawness about it. Because, agreed, I hear all the time, well, which way do we take our product, building the roadmap, things like that, headcount hiring. But really taking it into an interpersonal level
Yeah.
is really neat.
I mean, all
So,
that stuff is super important also, but for
yeah,
me, that was the learning, you know.
I love it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you.
amazing. I cannot wait to learn more about your product and watch you grow, and lots of pictures from Adobe as you make that first go to market splash.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.